sounds like magic, but it is not. It's reality.
That's an elf rock.
Hello friends, my name is Magnús Skarphéðinsson. I'm the headmaster of the Elf School in Iceland.
So my name's Terry Gunnell. I'm Professor Emeritus of Folkloristics at the University of Iceland.
And people tell humans, when humans ask them, who are you? We are just people, here and now. We live in another dimension, but we share partly the same world as you and partly separate.
So belief in nature spirits is something actually very, very old in Iceland and came here with the settlers in around about the time 870 AD. And originally the word wouldn't have been álfar, but would have been náttúruvættir, which means literally nature spirits. And we know that these sorts of beliefs certainly exist within Norway and Ireland as well, which is where the settlers of Iceland came from initially. Our evidence for these is in the Icelandic sagas and in the poems and things of this kind. So certainly when people start collecting the folk tales of Iceland, which is in the mid-19th century, and people are collecting folk tales from all over Northern Europe at that point, then we certainly find a large number of the stories tell about the álfar or the huldufolk.
Icelanders never say, do you believe in elves? They always say, do you believe in elves and hidden people? Hidden people are elves, but the difference is they are totally human-sized elves. Human culture, human clothes, human language, human lingo language, and most of them speak Icelandic, which is a mystery to us.
But they're more powerful than us, they have better houses than us, they have better equipment than we do. But they'll often ask for assistance, and we're expected to give them assistance back. And if we do assist them, then they will help us with farming and things of this kind at the same time. Let's say probably about 1/3 of the stories that were collected deal with connections with the hidden people.
I can claim as an historian, elves and hidden people, especially hidden people, have saved hundreds of lives here in this country, most likely thousands of them. I know 3 or 4 present living Icelanders that were saved by hidden people. Most of them were lost in the wild in winter, walking from one farm to another. They got lost, were freezing to death in the end, and sometimes the hidden people found them. They took them into their home, hosted them, gave them dry clothes, cooked a warm meal for them, and sometimes they slept there for a day or more until they came better weather. I know this sounds like magic, but it is reality. One of my favorite elf stories that I collected, I got that in the year 1997 from 92-year-old lady in a retired people home in Akureyri. Quite a few fishermen drowned that winter. He was hired, accidentally or not, very psychic man. The first morning he was carrying the boat with his colleagues to the ocean. He saw in the mountain aside Vík, he saw there was an elf farm a couple of hundred meters away. And they always went every morning catching fish, like the humans did. So he didn't tell anybody about this. But it happened 6 or 7 months after he started in March 1921, that the elves were not going fishing one day. He got afraid. He told his colleagues, hey friends, I think we should stay home. The elves are not going fishing. Elves, what are you talking about? Well, elves know things in advance, especially if it is a danger. Especially if it's bad weather. They had a long talk about it. They had a vote. 5 wanted to stay home. 2 wanted to go out fishing. Went to the farmer himself, and after quite a long talk, he did not accept it. But they, instead of sailing to the ocean, they sailed around the mountain and followed the coast. Parked the boat 5 or 10 meters away from the coast. In the middle of the day, there came crazy weather, blew the boat upside down. They all went in the sea, but they could stand on their toes. None of them could swim. They would all have drowned in the ocean.
We did a similar survey again in 2006, 2007, working with Iceland, where we asked about a whole range of folk beliefs and also the experiences that people had had with these beings. And the figures that came from that were very different to this famous newspaper survey, which had suggested that 50% of Icelanders believe in the hidden people, which was a very, very high figure. What the figures that came out from Icelander's survey and ours from 2006, 2007 was more like something, maybe about 13% would say that they believed, and maybe about 17% would say that they didn't believe. But in between, we have the whole range of people who have beliefs where people are open to the existence. So when we did the survey again in 2023, then it was clear that beliefs in many of the supernatural, it was clear that many of the traditional beliefs in Iceland were diminishing in one way or another. But it's still pretty clear that about, I would say, 60%, 70% of Icelanders are open to the idea of the existence of some form of nature spirit or the hidden people. And what I do generally when I'm talking to journalists about these beliefs, then I say the best way to find out exactly what Icelanders feel and what they believe is to say to them, imagine that you have a garden outside your house, and in that garden there's a rock, and you're thinking of blowing up that rock to put a hot pot, a sort of hot pool outside in your garden, and the day before you're about to get rid of this rock, somebody looks over the fence and says to you, "What are you doing?" And they say, and you say to them, "Why? What's the problem?" And they say to you, "Well, you know what that rock is, do you?" "No, what is that rock?" "That's an elf rock." And then comes the question of whether you're actually going to blow it up or not. And I would say about 95% of Icelanders will not go anywhere near it. It may be because they think it's quite nice to have an elf rock in the garden, but in most cases it's because they'd rather not tempt fate and see what happens if you mess around with a place belonging to the hidden people.
I could tell you a lot of stories. If humans did not respect the elves' homes, then came a lot of troubles. The constructions were in a mess, accidents, strikes, bad weather, the machines broke down, the machines were overheated, and a major repairing cost. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. In worst cases, death of animals on the farm, or even humans died. The worst case I've heard was 3 siblings, 2 girls, 1 boy died on the farm that their father was exploding the cliffs where the hidden people was and the elves.
Certainly, the way that people see the hidden people is that they are connected to the landscape, that they're living inside the rocks on the hillside. And it's that, in a sense, that has come to connect them with certain stories that have been taking place in the last few years, when people have been trying to move particular rocks or destroy particular rocks for roads.
Because the state road company or other private companies or even private individuals wanted to build roads or houses or bridges or dams or whatever. And there were some cliffs in the way, and elves or hidden people were living there. They either came normally in dreams to the humans and asked them not to destroy their home.
And then what happens is that somebody in the town council or somewhere else gets a message that there are hidden people living in this rock and they'd rather not be moved. And this goes along with equipment breaking down and things not working when they're trying to deal with this. So sometimes they ask to be given time to move, or sometimes they just ask, can you please build the road around this particular rock? And that's what happened. That's what happened up in a street called Alfholsvegur, where you can see where the road goes around a rock that the hidden people were supposed to be living in.
Today there is a sort of a negotiation. The hidden people is asked to leave this stone or rock for 2 or 3 days a week, and the humans would come with cranes, heavy cranes, and lift these rocks and move them away 20, 50 or 70 meters away. That has been the more common thing in the last decades. Before it was only exploded. Yes, I could tell you a lot of stories of that, but this is reality in Iceland today. Your responsibility to learn about the elves and to change the culture of humans and accept this more. Thank you.
So here we see some sort of idea of the way in which beliefs in the hidden people have influence on the way that people are living nowadays. And sometimes stories about them are used to protect certain areas of landscape. Certainly, too, when they were planning on building this big dam in the east of the country, then the Alsatru group here went and called on them to protect the land.